Good? Okay, thank you very much. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kristyn Wong-Tam, and I am the Member of Provincial Parliament for Toronto Centre. Thank you very much for joining us today. My pronouns are they and them, she and her. This weekend, the World Health Organization declared the worldwide spread of monkeypox a health emergency, a global health emergency. As many of you know, monkeypox is a viral infection that can cause fever, muscle aches, backache, swollen lymph nodes, chills, exhaustion, lesion, and rashes. It is very, very painful. While monkeypox has recently been reported for its transmission through sex, it is not exclusively transmitted through sexual contact. It can be spread through droplets and non-sexual skin-to-skin contact and contaminated objects. We live and work in a city that is incredibly dense and populated. The majority of us live with someone else. We live with community members, we live with roommates, we live with family. Sharing towels, sharing sofa seats, sharing utensils, sharing even clothes, fabric. Monkeypox can spread through all of those objects. And to keep everyone safe and healthy, and to keep us working with the facts, we have to be honest that many men who have sex with men also have sex and sexual relationships with women. Monkeypox cannot be happening at a worse time for my constituents in Toronto Centre. Toronto Centre is home to the Church and Wellesley Village, which has been the epicenter of the HIV/AIDS pandemic. Not to mention economic hardship that Church Street businesses have endured, like many others in Ontario through the COVID-19 pandemic. The last thing small businesses in Ontario and small businesses in Toronto Centre need is another pandemic. Cafes, bars, clubs, bathhouses, restaurants are all struggling to stay afloat after the many years of COVID. We do not need another virus to make people afraid from hugging their neighbors. While our gyms, pools, recreation centers, and community centers are continuing to welcome back their guests, their customers, while our bars are starting to finally break even and potentially turn a profit to recover from the loss that they've endured during the pandemic shutdowns. While we gather together to watch parties and events, to watch basketball games, to watch soccer games, to cheer on our favorite players in tennis matches, to even watch Canada's drag race, we are coming back together again. And at the same time, the healthcare system is on the verge of collapse. The COVID pandemic took hospital wait times from bad to worse. Action like Doug Ford's cut to nurse wages fell far below the inflation through Bill 124, which meant the healthcare sector is bleeding healthcare workers regularly, daily. Every week for the last few weeks, my office has received an email or phone call from a constituent who cannot find a family doctor, from a constituent who is a nurse who's burnt out and leaving the profession, or a neighbor who's horrified to learn that their vital surgery has been delayed again, months and possibly over a year away now. Does anyone really think that our hospitals are ready and staffed properly and fully to manage a new emerging infectious disease? We have a chance to turn the tide now with the right public health response. That response must include adequate paid sick days. The village and my constituents have survived too much stigma and too many pandemics. My community knows that early public health measures like paid sick days empower community members to stay home when they are sick. It keeps everyone safe. It protects the businesses. This disease might have began primarily spreading through networks of men having sex with men, but without smart government action, we are now looking at spread through the general population, spread in healthcare settings, spread at workplaces, in transit, in the theaters, wherever there is close physical contact. To stop stigma from hurting our public health response, all Ontarians deserve to be empowered with adequate paid sick days. Last week, Doug Ford mentioned that he is extending his temporary 3-day paid sick day program until March 2023. But we know that the isolation with monkeypox can be as long as 14 to 21 days or potentially longer. 3 days of paid sick days does not come close to empowering our communities enough to fend off this emerging infectious disease. It falls short of public health advice, even from his own advisors. And that's why we're coming here today, to call for more action, to call on Doug Ford to do what is right, to protect the health of Ontarians, to protect the healthcare system. I'm going to introduce Len Tooley, an HIV and public health advocate who has recently recovered from monkeypox himself. He wrote a very personal op-ed. He was featured in a very personal article in the Toronto Star, and his story was very, very compelling. Welcome to the stage, Len.
Thank you, Kristyn. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to be reading something that you can read along with if you like. If you go to the website that I created, which is igotmpox.com, and go to the blog section and click on the most recent entry. And I'm calling it A Love Letter to Doug and Justin. So first, I'd like to start with a thanks and acknowledgement of the Indigenous nations on whose lands we're meeting now. The Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And I think it's important just to note and remember the sort of traumas that are still echoing through society, not only of colonization, but of smallpox, which is, which was a disease that really has informed everything that we know about monkeypox and our response to it. And I want to be clear that I don't speak for everyone who has or will get monkeypox, or really anyone other than myself, but I do know a lot of people's stories. I've somehow found myself here today because on June 17th last month in downtown Toronto, I realized that I had won the monkeypox lottery. And I was one of the first probably 50 people in Toronto who got monkeypox. And that experience led me to write a resource that eventually turned into a website, which I've mentioned before, igotmpox.com. And it's somewhere sort of like between another love letter to two-spirit people and gay and bi and queer guys, but presented as like a how-to guide with some sass, some campy humor, and some real talk to help folks make decisions and encourage them to be compassionate towards themselves and give them ideas as to how to take care of themselves. And through this website, I've been hearing from a few people every day who somehow find their way to my site, who email me and share their pretty important and often tumultuous stories of the ride that is monkeypox. And they are a lot of lovely darlings, so shout out to those folks. And I want to tell you very clearly that in Toronto and throughout Canada right now, there are many dozens of people who are going through the experiences that I'm talking about right now. And so, while monkeypox symptoms range pretty drastically from very mild to very severe, I think it's important to remember that, it is generally being spread through sexual contact. So it's not like you have to really be rubbing skin with someone to get monkeypox. It's not being transmitted in general community settings, but it is present. I just don't think it's very productive to sort of catastrophize the whole monkeypox tragedy. We will get through this, and we'll get through it a lot easier if our political leaders start stepping up to the plate. And in reality, many people, and probably most of the people who have monkeypox right now, are going through it completely alone, and it's not a fun experience. Lots of people are scared and unsure about the sometimes extreme and unexpected things their bodies are going through, asking themselves questions like, is this symptom serious enough to go to the emergency room? Because they know that it probably is serious enough, but then they're sort of also doing the calculation of how completely dire it's going to have to get to justify going to the emergency room and waiting for 8 hours. And I sort of liken it to a scene from that was cut from a 1980s pandemic movie, but stretched over 8 hours. It's not an ideal situation. Those of us who do have jobs are trying to decide, do I take a holiday? Do I tell work that I got COVID? Can I push it long enough that I can just get better enough to go back to work and work through it? Is this how I'm going to have to spend my vacation time this year? And then there's also our artists and our sex workers and our wage laborers and all of our neighbors who don't have jobs or who have precarious employment, who, in addition to everything that I've already mentioned, have to figure out how they're going to survive 4, 5, 6 weeks isolation, and like generally without a lot of energy to do things like cook, even if there is food to be cooked. And so that's like, this is the situation that many people in this city, in Toronto, and in this country are living through right now. I'm not being hyperbolic to make a political point. This is what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis. It's very heavy. And I just think that I wanted to communicate that if you want folks to isolate for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, which is what a friend recently was asked to do, we need food support. We need quality medical supplies. We need straightforward access to competent healthcare providers who know what they're doing and don't act like the pearl clutchers of the 1980s and 90s. Special shout out to Princess Diana. But right now, to many of us, it doesn't really only feel like we're on our own, but we actually are on our own. And I'm speaking to a lot of these folks. So, Doug and Justin, while we haven't actually met yet, I do have a message and a question for you, which is that I hope that you surprise us. I hope that you find it in yourselves and in your interests to give us reasons to feel like this isn't going to be yet another story of neglect and erasure. The U.S. is like appointing monkeypox physicians. Biden has spoken about it on the news, waiting for Canada to step up. Also, if paid time off is the best anyone is going to get, then it's better than the current situation, which is nothing. So that sounds like a no-brainer decision to me. In closing, I'd like to ask Ontario's Premier Doug Ford and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, will you show up for the people who have monkeypox and the people who are going to get monkeypox in our city, in our province, in our country, and show the rest of them that Toronto, Ontario, and Canada know how to get it done? We are looking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron. Thank you. Okay. Len, thank you very much for sharing your story. And obviously, it's not easy to stand in front of community, in front of the media, in front of Ontario, to tell such a personal story. I want to recognize that our next speaker is Chris Dranos, who is also a registered nurse and a community-based research and a member of the Community-Based Research Center, a national organization that promotes health and well-being for gender diverse and sexually diverse people.
Hello, everyone, and thank you. My name is Chris Dranos, and I use he, him pronouns. I just wanted to acknowledge that we're on Treaty 13 territory, and we are uninvited guests, and I just wanted to thank the Indigenous peoples for welcoming us here. So I am actually just going to talk briefly about the importance of why we need supports for people who have monkeypox. There's actually a very simple things that we need to do. There's prevention, testing, and support for people who actually do get monkeypox. And all three of these are currently lacking in the way that the Ontario Ministry of Health has deployed their resources. Testing is very difficult to access. You have to go to the emergency department often to get this, which we know is experiencing closures in parts of the province. In terms of the prevention supports that are available, isolating, so people are being ordered to isolate under public health orders, and it is an ethical obligation on the part of the government to provide the supports that people need to be able to isolate. And as we've mentioned before, it can be up to 4, 5, 6 weeks. So we need things like food support, medical support, medications, and we need paid sick days as well too. And this includes people that maybe don't have regular employment and that could be precariously employed as well. So we're really calling on Doug Ford and his Minister of Health, Sylvia Jones, to make sure that we actually do have the supports available for people who do get monkeypox. So I'm going to keep my brief, and I just wanted to thank Kristyn Wong-Tam for bringing us on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Christopher and Chris. Our final speaker, before we move into a period of questions from media and from guests who are here today, is Dr. Samantha Green, who is with the Decent Work and Health Network and who has been on the front lines of fighting for paid sick days. Dr. Green?
Thank you. I have seen the impacts that the lack of paid sick days has had on my patients and their communities during the COVID-19 pandemic. With the WHO announcing monkeypox as a global health emergency, adequate and permanent paid sick days are a crucial public health measure to stop its spread. We need to act now. Monkeypox cases are on the rise here in Ontario. Based on what we have learned in the COVID-19 pandemic, the most vulnerable in our communities will be impacted the most. We know that monkeypox is an infectious disease spread through person-to-person contact, and ensuring workers can stay home while they are sick is vital if we are to curb the spread and support patients' recovery process. Through the relentless advocacy and push from health workers, labor, and community advocates, the Ford government was pressured to instate the Worker Income Protection Benefit that has just been extended for a third time until March 2023, offering a measly 3 days for over 710 days. 3 days for a period of 700 days is completely inadequate. It is not even sufficient for the 5 days of isolation recommended for COVID-19 infection. WIPB can only be used for COVID-related issues and cannot, for example, be used for the 21-day isolation required for those with monkeypox infection, according to Toronto Public Health. This is not the comprehensive paid sick days that we have been calling for. Extending an inadequate temporary program like the WIPB is not good enough. Our patients deserve better. Health providers and public health experts have been clear. What we need is 10 permanent paid sick days plus 14 days during public health emergencies such as COVID-19 and monkeypox. This is because we know that legislating paid sick days through employment standards is the most effective way to contain the spread of all types of infectious diseases in a workplace. The emergence of monkeypox only illustrates the limitations of programs like the WIPB. If one of my patients becomes infected with monkeypox, my advice, and indeed the public health directive, is for them to stay home and isolate. But without paid sick days, rising prices, and workers living paycheck to paycheck, following this advice is becoming increasingly difficult. Learning from what we saw during the pandemic, it's more clear than ever that precarious work is a health issue. Bad working conditions have been a key driver of the pandemic, especially in predominantly high-density and diverse neighborhoods that were left without protection during the pandemic. We know what effective paid sick days look like. They must be universally available to all workers with no exceptions, seamlessly accessible without barriers, employer-provided and employer-paid. The cost to businesses for implementing paid sick days is negligible, but the cost to the healthcare system of not implementing paid sick days is massive. And permanent, no more temporary programs. And finally, adequate, at least 10 days and 14 days during public health emergencies. This is necessary for healthy communities. We need these permanent paid sick days now. Thank you.
Fantastic, and thank you very much, Dr. Green. I know that it's not necessarily always easy to step forward, and especially when there's such massive understaffing in our healthcare system and our public health clinics. Everybody here behind me is very, very busy. They've taken some time to share this critical message with the people of Ontario, but really a message with our Premier and the government of the day. I hope that we can come together to work on this issue that is so critically important. It can save lives, and it can also, more importantly, and just as important, I should say, protect the healthcare system that is so overwhelmed at the moment. At this point in time, we'd like to welcome questions from the media, if there are any questions from guests.
Yeah, I'll happily take the lead. It's on a few different topics. It's just first off, Kristyn, I thought your colleague, Ms. Jill Andrew, would be here. Because she's not, I'll ask you the question I was going to ask her, which is, do you know if she is going to run for leader of your party?
MPP Andrew?
Yes.
I think that question would be best posed to MPP Andrews herself.
Okay, fair enough.
I do not know the answer.
Surely you're aware of the news of the former leader this morning. I just want to know what you think about with her stepping down. What are some of the gaps and also opportunities created for your party and the individuals in your party from that news?
Well, first of all, I mean, Andrea Horvat is a very skilled and very talented professional. Knowing that she actually rose from the ranks of the municipal government, she served as a councillor. One of the things that brought me to the NDP is her incredible deep knowledge of urban affairs. I think she'll serve the people of Hamilton incredibly well. And I know that I wish her well. Nothing but the very best, because she's impressive in every possible way. Obviously, the news has just hit the media and the sidewalks, and I think that the party will have a chance to work with our leader, our interim leader, Peter Tabbins, and he will guide us through what that transition will look like. I know that her staff are still working. I don't think she's ever stopped working. Andrea has never really been someone who slows down, so I wish her all the very best. But our party will work with her and, of course, support her. And I know that everyone here at Queen's Park who has been in touch with Andrea, who knows her to be a person of hard work ethics, but also to be a tenacious and person who will do everything she can to serve the good people of Hamilton.
Okay, and then just one last thing. While you were speaking, I learned from some colleagues that Miss Sylvia Jones, the health minister, is currently or was just doing a media event with John Tory, among others. So we, the journalists at the press gallery, were not notified by the ways that we typically would for something like this. Though I am told that some journalists who were subscribed to the mayor's press releases, whatever it may be. Your party has been asking that basically that she come talk to journalists, come be public. With me telling you this, what do you make of this? What are your thoughts?
I think under the current public health crisis that we're living in, Ontarians are looking for leadership from their government, especially here at Queen's Park. It's incredibly discouraging for me to recognize that perhaps the minister is not appearing, to the media at Queen's Park. I think that there's a responsibility to respond to Ontarians, especially since we know everybody is struggling with the healthcare crisis. It's unfortunate that you had to find out that she was making a public appearance with the mayor through the mayor's media lists. That is absolutely unacceptable.
And kind of within that vein, have you had the chance to speak with Minister Jones or the Chief Medical Officer of Health on monkeypox and some of the like paid sick days and preventative measures that you're looking for them to implement?
No, I myself have not yet, but I know that our health critics have at the NDP. I know that there are many members of the NDP who have spoken with many members of the government to just raise the issue with them. The call for 10 paid sick day is not new. It's not coming out just today. It's now been a call from the healthcare professionals, from the licensing bodies for now almost 2 years and longer. So I think it's critical that we try to resolve this call today. We now are living with two potential threats. I mean, one we already know about COVID, but the second one is emerging, and we don't know how far and how widespread it will be. Staying silent, hiding from the people of Ontario, not answering questions is not going to be helpful for protecting the health of Ontarians, and I think that we all deserve better.
And you mentioned this, but paid sick days has been an issue for COVID as well. It's been, something that doctors and advocates have brought up throughout the pandemic. Are there any monkeypox specific measures that you want to see implemented?
I think we need to have a conversation about it, and I think we need to be able to be very open about what is happening. We need to be able to recognize what we don't know, and healthcare professionals are really starting to sort of jump in front of this. But, I think we also need to understand that, the rates of infection are going up. They are doubling and tripling. And this is why we're raising the alarm bell, is that we cannot take any chances of staying quiet, focusing on one pandemic when we have another emerging infectious disease that is starting to take hold in communities that will spread outside to general populations. And this is not just a concern for myself, who represents Toronto Centre, but I think healthcare professionals who are working in the sector are saying something else is brewing, and we need government to take action and to be able to speak about it publicly, and to also make sure that we don't do it by stigmatizing communities any further. I don't know if there are any, if that question might be also, if there's a way to expand on that by our guest speakers.
I would be happy to.
Yeah.
Thank you. So when someone has to isolate at home, they aren't allowed to be in contact with anyone else. So we actually really need the government and public health to provide the means for people to stay at home. So this includes things like food, medicine, and also preventing social isolation. We only have 288 confirmed cases of monkeypox here in Ontario at this point. And to me, that seems like it's not very many people, so it's actually a pretty easy win for the government to actually just provide support to these people. So really, it's actually, and anyone who is experiencing that should be eligible for this. I've seen in other countries for COVID, they send care packages to people's home to allow them to isolate there. So that's one idea that the government be very happy for you to take that as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Chris. Any other questions? Did you want to speak, Dr.?
I wouldn't mind saying
Yeah?
something.
Okay.
No, I just had a question for you, which is
Okay.
particularly. So yeah, the party has been calling for 10 paid sick days. Yet Health Canada says that symptoms from monkeypox can last up to 6 weeks. So how particularly even 10 days can actually address, monkeypox for people who have to isolate for a longer period of time?
Thank you for that question. I think that, Dr. Green has touched upon the need to have the 10 paid sick days, but also an additional 14 days during a public health emergency. So does it adequately, does it fully cover every single day that someone may need to stay in isolation? No. And clearly there are some cases where the symptoms are stronger and perhaps the incubation period is longer. But at this point in time, we're focused on the 10 plus 14. And the concern I think we all have is that, the healthcare system is really, it's been embattled. And there really is no room for mistakes. And right now it's still early days. And in some cases, in some communities, we've already been hit. But it's not widespread in the general community yet. And perhaps it may not be. But why take that chance? Why not offer the 10 days, which everybody has been calling for now for years, and then add the 14 days in a public health emergency? If we don't need it, if the individual doesn't need it, they won't take it. But if they do need it, they'll have it. And that means that they'll know that the government is standing with them, making sure that they take this issue very seriously. Dr. Green, would you like to respond?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to add that I have had several patients over the course of the pandemic who have had to go to work despite being sick with COVID-19 because they have not been able to access adequate paid sick days. The 3 days provided by the Government of Ontario are, first of all, inadequate, and second of all, they're not automatic, they require an application, and they are also not universal. Not everyone has been able to access them. So I've had patients who have gone to work, likely infectious with COVID-19, and we know that COVID-19 is not the only infectious disease out there, and monkeypox will not be the only infectious disease out there. So we need 10 permanent paid sick days and then 14 during public health emergencies, because there will be further public health emergencies, and we need to be able to protect all of our community when these infectious diseases emerge.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Peter.
And just also, why call on the government to pay for those sick days when you can call on the government to legislate workplaces to actually pay for their own employees to stay home when they're sick?
So I think it's important for us to recognize that, together collectively, we have to keep each other safe and healthy. And the health and well-being of Ontarians is absolutely critical. We see that if we don't take these proactive measures, it will cost a lot more down the road, whether it's, the fact that the staffing levels at the hospitals are diminishing, or perhaps we don't have enough, we have inadequate wait times in the ERs. Like, there is a business case to be made on why you want to be preventive, why you want to be proactive. And every time we're reactive, we put ourselves behind the 8 ball. So I would say that, to your point about working out the details, let's sit down and work them out. There are many people in the public health sector are ready to do that today. They're ready to do that right now if the minister and the premier says, let's get to work. But we're not hearing anything from them. And if anything, we're hearing that they're willing to extend what we already knew as an inadequate temporary 3-day program to March 2023. I don't know if the premier knows something that we don't know, that perhaps by 2023, COVID is over, monkeypox is gone. It just makes no sense while it's being so patched up in such an inadequate way.
Any questions on the phone line?
Yes.
Should you have any questions, please press star 1. Question comes from Man Almidi, Canadian Press. Go ahead, please.
Hey, good morning. So I just want to ask you about the fact that you mentioned that there are going to be other infectious diseases around and they're not going to go away. So your call on the full government to introduce this permanent sick days program is aimed, or the goal of this call to include every or all infectious diseases that's going to appear in the future, or is it like related specifically to monkeypox?
Thank you very much. I think we heard your question correctly. The question, if I can just repeat it to make sure we got that, is are we calling on the government to have 10 paid sick days for all infectious diseases? Is that the question?
Yes.
So the answer to that is yes. That is what healthcare professionals have been calling for. Dr. Green, did you want to pop in here? Sure. I can feel your energy.
Yeah. There are many other infectious diseases out there, right? People contract influenza, strep throat, many other highly infectious diseases, and those people should also stay home when they're sick. And we need to be protecting the healthcare system, so we need people to stay home when they're sick. And even protecting those of us who work in primary care from needing unnecessary visits from these people who are coming in for doctor's notes, for example. We need 10 permanent paid sick days that are universal, accessible to all, for all infectious diseases. Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Next question from Wyatt Sharp at the Wyatt Sharp Show. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm Kristyn Wong-Tam. Just a question on, I guess, what you and some of your guest speakers there today feel could be the potential worst-case scenario if some of the actions that you've mentioned today, such as paid sick days, are not implemented. What do you fear, I guess, the worst-case scenario could be, and does it go beyond paid sick days in order to ensure that, say, it doesn't get to the same level as a disease like COVID-19, for example?
Thank you very much for your question. I do believe it was clear enough that we all heard that, correct? So this one is very challenging, I think, is that, what do we do to protect communities? What do we do to protect children in schools and daycares, all the workers? And at this point in time, we're asking for something that's just something as rudimentary as 10 paid sick days. Are there other public health measures that need to be implemented? Then I would say yes, but we need to follow the advice of public health professionals. And the recommendation and the call and demand for the 10 paid sick days plus 14 days during a public health emergency has now been long-standing. It is no longer just, emerged yesterday. So I would say that we would refer back to the healthcare professionals and the science table and everyone else who's been working on these issues, and when it comes to infectious disease, and follow the science, follow the medicine, and follow the advice of our healthcare professionals. I myself am not prepared to answer that as someone who's not a healthcare provider. There are qualified people behind me who could probably speak to it more. But this minimum, at this minimum and at this starting point, we're calling for the 10 plus 14. And I believe that Len would like to speak.
Thank you, Kristyn. Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to recognize that nothing is new here. We have an entire history of HIV and AIDS to learn from. And part of that history is that it took children getting HIV and innocent people getting HIV for real resources to flow and real attention to be drawn to the problem. So if folks want that to be the case and wanted to take that in order for us to address and provide resources and support to people who get monkeypox, then that is a societal decision that's being mostly made by our leaders. But it is a decision because there's people here today who are saying there's a lot more that can be done, and right now nothing is being done. So yes, fear for your children, fear for your workplaces, because if we don't act and we don't provide support to people who are getting monkeypox, that's how everything has unfolded before and will unfold again. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
A follow-up line?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask too about. I believe you've been asked about this, but I just want to clarify. You obviously are saying that you believe that there should be 10 paid sick days for monkeypox, but again, as people have mentioned before, it can take up to, I believe someone said 6 weeks in order to fully recover from that. And then with COVID as well, what happens if, I guess, someone gets both of those two diseases within, similar time period, similar time frame? Is the 10 paid sick days to cover all of that, or is that for both of them? I guess just maybe clarify that if you don't mind.
Dr. Green is going to answer your question.
I mean, I think what we're calling for, though, is 10 paid sick days plus 14 during public health emergencies. And so those 14 would be added in the case of monkeypox. And that would be enough for the average person who contracts monkeypox, where the guidelines say 21 days of isolation. That being said, I just think we need to start somewhere. Right now we have 3, which can only be used for COVID-19 only until March 2023. So 10 plus 14 is much better than that. So I think we don't need to get into the nitty-gritty details about, well, what about people who need it for longer or whatever. Maybe we can look at that in the future. But for now, what we need is 10 permanent, adequate, accessible paid sick days plus 14 during public health emergencies.
Thank you very much, Dr. Green. So just as we get ready to close, if there are no other questions.
Where is Ms. Jill Andrew today? I thought she was supposed to be here.
You're absolutely right. Original advisory came out that she was attending, and I think she had another.
Just didn't work with
Yeah, because we moved the press conference from 9:30 to 10:30, so I think we lost Jill in that shuffle. Yeah.
Fair enough. Where she goes.
Yes, sometimes it happens. I had to move my calendar around too. So thank you very much, everyone. And let us not forget that this past weekend, the World Health Organization called the worldwide spread of monkeypox a global health emergency. So we know that this is urgent. We know that this is serious. And we know that this is just the beginning. So hopefully we'll hear from the government very soon and that we can work together to resolve this issue for Ontarians. Thank you very much.